Hey guys, Luke here. So I bought this old 1999 Suzuki King Quad 300 at an auction. I needed something to beat around with at the acreage. The rear wheel, the right rear wheel, was really wobbly on it, and also the brakes were binding. So obviously it needed new bearings in the back. And new brake pads as well. Now, there is not much information online on how to do this job, so I figured I'd record a video and kind of show you how I went about getting this done. So the first thing you got to do, you have to remove the control arm. So the light, there's a lot of sunshine here. You have to remove the control arm. You could do the brakes without removing the control arm, but since I was doing the bearing anyways, the bearings have to be removed with the control arm out of the vehicle. And also in my case, the actual brake drum was seized into the whole spline unit, and together with the bearings, like everything was just in real bad shape. Somebody did a piss poor job of maintaining this over its lifetime. As you can see here, there's a lot of crap and debris, and just everything was just rusted. So to remove the control arm, you got two 14mm bolts. One of them is in the rear here, right there, and then one is just under the footrest here, right over here. So just undo those, and then you got your shock here. I think that's another 14mm that was on there on the strut, and then there was the manual linkage for the brake and a breather. So you gotta pop those off, and then the thing slides. Oh, actually, and also there's a nut that holds the shaft in place. So pop that off first, and then remove the 14mm, and then the whole control arm just slides right off. So I got this in my garage now. Unfortunately, I've already ripped this apart, so I couldn't do a step-by-step instruction how to rip it apart. But I'll try and explain it real quickly here, how all this is put together. So this is your hub end that holds the wheel bolts onto this. So if you were just changing the brakes, you would pop these four nuts off, and then this should come off just like that. And then once you do that, you would undo all of these bolts here, and then this dust shield slides right off. Okay. Now this is the brake drum underneath here, and also you got to be careful here. There's an O-ring here, so don't chisel on this or anything. Just gently tap it off when everything is kind of seized together, like mine was. So then you get to your brake drum. So then you remove your brake drum. The brake drum will just tap right off. You can just tap it right off. And then here I've already got the shoes removed. And that's that. So if you were just doing your brakes, you don't have to take the control arm off. You should be able to take all this apart. In my case, this part was seized into here, so we actually had to press this spline off. We actually didn't end up using a press in the end. We just took a socket that fit perfectly on top of here and knocked it out. The press was putting too much pressure on the dust shield, which we were having leaned up against the table. But anyway, so since I'm doing the whole job, I removed the control arm. Now, the biggest thing to note on this is that if you see inside here, the outer bearing sits here. Then there's a spacer ring here. Once you get the, and then the inner bearing is on the other side. And there's the casting is done in a way where like this is not removable. So you can't just press the bearings out from one end only. One bearing comes out through the back end, one bearing comes out through the front end. So this is a big thing, because at the beginning we thought we could just pop the bearings out from the one side, but we can't. So what you have to do, once you get this all taken apart like this, it's easier to work with. So this is the old bearings here. I mean, as you can see, this one is still intact, but it's completely rusted, and I mean, this is just crazy how badly maintained this was. This is the actual seals, spring seals for each end, and this is a spacer ring. I don't have the other bearing here because it disintegrated as we were taking it out. So what you want to do is you want to put a socket right here. So what we did is we pressed out the spline end first, so basically towards the outside. So we knocked that bearing out first. So what we did is put a socket in here and knocked on that socket, and basically until the bearing came out. Like I said before, the bearing disintegrated. So what ended up happening, the inner race stayed inside. So then we just used a, this is not exactly what we used, but a similar one, just a little bit smaller. And then gently all the way around tapped it out, and eventually it comes out. On the other side we were a little luckier. On the inner side the bearing came out intact, so we put the socket on here, and then when we flip this around, we put a socket on it, and we were able to knock it out completely with the race and everything. Now we didn't even bother taking the seals out first. We just knocked everything out with the bearing. So that's it. Biggest thing to remember, there's the casting has a lip in here that won't allow you to take the bearings out from one end only. So you got to knock them out from both ends.